Listen carefully, because this is the moment everything changes. Your life will not transform because of motivation, luck, or timing. Your life will transform only when you become the version of yourself you keep imagining, the version you keep promising, the version you keep postponing. The truth is simple. The identity you carry today is the biggest barrier to the life you want tomorrow. This audiobook is not about minor improvements. It's about a full reset, a demolition and rebuild. If you want new results, you need a new identity. And starting right now, we're going to construct that identity from the ground up, thought by thought, habit by habit, decision by decision. This is your identity reset. And once it begins, the old version of you will not survive.
Chapter 1. Stop lying to yourself. You want to change. You keep saying you want to change. But every time the moment for action arrives, you hesitate, you stall, you delay, you negotiate. And the brutal truth is simple. You're lying to yourself. You say you want discipline, but you keep choosing comfort. You say you want success, but you keep choosing distraction. You say you want a new identity, but you're still protecting the behaviors of the old one. Be honest. That's the key. You have a choice. Every transformation begins with honesty, ruthless honesty, the kind of honesty that forces you to look in the mirror and admit, I'm not doing what I said I would do. Most people never reach this point. Most people spend their entire lives hiding behind soft excuses, pretty lies, and weak promises. And that's why they never change. Your identity right now is built on the things you repeatedly tolerate from yourself. You tolerate inconsistency. You tolerate emotional reactions. You tolerate low-effort habits. And because you tolerate them, you reinforce them every day, every hour, every decision. You want a new identity, but you're feeding the old one. And the old one will not die until you stop giving it power, stop feeding it, stop protecting it, stop lying for it. Be honest with yourself. That's the key. You have a choice. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow is just a softer version of never. Tomorrow is a trap, and you've fallen for it so many times that your brain doesn't even respect you anymore. Your subconscious hears your promises and laughs because you've broken those promises 1,000 times. Think back. How many times have you said, I'll wake up early, I'll hit the gym, I'll start that project, I'll stop scrolling, I'll cut them off, I'll focus, I'll commit, and then didn't? This is the identity you're fighting, not laziness, not weakness, not circumstances. You're fighting the version of you that mastered the art of self-deception. Be honest. That's the key. You have a choice. If you want to build a new identity, the first step is to kill the lies. All of them. Especially the ones that sound nice. Especially the ones that make you feel safe. Especially the ones that protect your comfort zone. Because comfort is where the old identity survives. Comfort is where your potential dies. Comfort is where your discipline dissolves. And every time you lie to yourself, you give comfort more power. You say you want transformation, but transformation demands truth. Truth about your habits, truth about your environment, truth about your weaknesses, truth about your priorities, truth about your excuses. Honesty hurts, but that pain is the beginning of change. That pain is the crack where the light comes in. That pain is the doorway to a different version of you. You cannot reset your identity while running from truth. You cannot build a new life on a foundation of dishonesty. You cannot rise while you're still negotiating with the parts of you that want to stay the same. Be honest. That's the key. You have a choice. Look at your life right now. Look at your results. Look at your discipline. Look at your routines. Look at your energy. Look at your environment. None of it is an accident. All of it is the consequence of the identity you've been reinforcing. If you want new results, you need a new identity. If you want a new identity, you need new behaviors. If you want new behaviors, you need truth. It starts here, with this moment, with this admission. I've been lying to myself.
And it's okay. Everyone does it.
But not everyone stops. Only the people who rise stop. Only the people who transform stop. Only the disciplined stop. And that's the person you're becoming. The person who stops lying. The person who stops avoiding. The person who stops hiding behind excuses and comfort. The person who confronts themselves. The person who resets their identity through honesty, responsibility, and discipline. Because discipline grows from honesty. Clarity grows from honesty. Character grows from honesty. Identity grows from honesty. You can't force change on an identity built on lies, but you can build a new one on truth. Start small. Say what you mean. Do what you say. Keep the promises you make to yourself, even the small ones, especially the small ones, because identity is built through repetition. If you say you'll wake up early, wake up early. If you say you'll go to the gym, go to the gym. If you say you'll study, study. If you say you'll cut them off, cut them off. If you say you'll stop, stop. It doesn't matter how small the action is. What matters is that your brain learns something new. I can trust myself. That's how identity changes. Not through motivation, not through inspiration, not through hype. Through self-trust, through consistency, through alignment between your words and your actions. Be honest. That's the key. You have a choice. And here's the truth you've been avoiding. You're not waiting for the right time. You're not waiting for the right opportunity. You're not waiting for more motivation. You're waiting for an identity shift. And that shift begins with honesty. When you stop lying to yourself, everything else becomes possible. Change becomes possible. Discipline becomes possible. Clarity becomes possible. Growth becomes possible. A new life becomes possible. This is the first step of your identity reset, the demolition phase, the destruction of self-deception, the end of who you were. Be honest. That's the key. You have a choice. And now that you've faced the truth, it's time to understand what identity really is and how you can rebuild it from the ground up. Chapter 2. The identity you wear is a habit. Chapter 2. The identity you wear is a habit. Identity is not your personality. Identity is not your nature. Identity is not fate, genetics, or destiny. Identity is a pattern, a repeated pattern, repeated long enough that you start calling it who I am. But here's the truth most people never face. Who you are is just what you've practiced the most. That means identity can be changed. And if it can be changed, it can be rebuilt. And if it can be rebuilt, then you are not trapped, not stuck, not defined, not fixed in place. Identity is trained. Identity is built. Identity is chosen. If you don't like the identity you're living with right now, you can burn it down and build a new one. That's the key. You have a choice. Think about the sentences you repeat when you're trying to justify your behavior. I'm not a morning person. I just can't focus. I'm naturally emotional. I don't have the discipline. I get overwhelmed easily. I'm bad at consistency. I'm not built like them. These aren't truths. These are habits pretending to be truths. These are patterns you rehearsed so many times that now they feel like permanent facts about your identity. But they're not. They're rehearsed behaviors. They're practiced reactions. They're learned limitations. You trained yourself into them, and you can train yourself out of them. Identity is trained. Identity is built. Identity is chosen. When you say, I'm not a morning person, what you really mean is, I've practiced waking up late. When you say, I can't focus, what you really mean is, I've practiced distraction. When you say, I'm emotional, what you really mean is,
I've practiced reacting. Your identity is following the pattern you feed it. That's the key. You have a choice. Look at your daily behaviors. Not what you say you are, not what you want to be, but what you repeat. Because repetition is the architect of identity. If you repeat avoidance, you become avoidant. If you repeat discipline, you become disciplined. If you repeat excuses, you become an excuse maker. If you repeat action, you become a person of action. If you repeat calmness, you become calm. If you repeat chaos, you become chaotic. Identity is the echo of your habits, and every echo grows louder the longer you repeat it. You don't need permission to change your identity. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need motivation. You don't need confidence. You need discipline. It's not about your flaw. It's about your discipline. Your identity is not a mystery. It's not complicated. It's not hidden. It's visible in your routines, your decisions, your emotions, your patterns, and your reactions. You become what you consistently do. You become what you consistently tolerate. You become what you consistently avoid. Consistency is identity. Repetition is identity. Habits are identity. And that's why most people never change, because they keep trying to change their life without changing the habits that built their identity. They want a new story, but they repeat the same sentences. They want a new result, but they repeat the same choices. They want a new life, but they repeat the same days. You have to break the pattern if you want to break the identity. That's the key. You have a choice. Let's go deeper. Let's make this real. Let's look at your life.
If you repeatedly sleep in, you're training yourself to be unreliable. If you repeatedly scroll when you're stressed, you're training yourself to escape. If you repeatedly avoid difficult tasks, you're training yourself to be fragile. If you repeatedly lash out, you're training yourself to be reactive. If you repeatedly blame others, you're training yourself to avoid responsibility. Your identity isn't sabotaging you. You are sabotaging yourself by feeding the wrong identity every day. But here's the good news. Identity can be reprogrammed. And the process starts with micro behavior shifts. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Hold your tongue when you want to react. Sit with discomfort instead of running from it. Finish the task even when you're bored. Say no when you usually say yes. Focus for 5 minutes longer than usual. These tiny actions are not small. They are identity-building bricks. Each one is a vote toward your future self. And every vote counts. Every choice counts. Every repetition counts. Identity is trained. Identity is built. Identity is chosen. And now that you understand this truth, you're ready for the next step. Because knowing that identity is a habit means you now must face the habits that create your future self. You learned what identity is. Now you need to learn how it's built. Choice by choice, action by action, pattern by pattern. Chapter 3. The person you want to be already exists inside your daily choices.
Chapter 3. The person you want to be already exists inside your daily choices. The person you want to become is not far away. They're not hidden. They're not unreachable. They're not buried under years of trauma, weakness, or failure. They're right there, on the other side of your next decision, your next choice, your next action. Most people fantasize about a future version of themselves. They imagine the successful version, the disciplined version, the focused version, the calm version, the unstoppable version. But imagination doesn't build identity. Fantasy doesn't create transformation. Wishing doesn't rewrite your life. Daily choices do. That's the key. You have a choice. Your future self is not created in one dramatic moment. Your future self is created in dozens of small, boring, repeated decisions you make every single day.
That's the real work. That's the real construction. That's where identity is built. And here's the truth you need to hear. You already know what choices the stronger version of you would make. You already know what they would do. You already know how they would act. You already know what they would prioritize. But you don't choose like them. Not yet. Because you still let your feelings dictate your behavior. You still wait for motivation. You still wait for the right moment. You still negotiate with discipline. It's not about feelings, it's about discipline. Say it again. It's not about feelings, it's about discipline. Feelings don't build your future. Discipline does. You know this. You've always known this. And yet you keep falling into the same trap. You assume the future version of you will magically appear one day, fully formed, fully disciplined, fully focused. But that version will only appear when you make the daily choices required to build them. That's the key. You have a choice. Think about how you spent the last 24 hours. Think about your decisions. Think about your time. Think about your focus. Think about your distractions. Did those choices match the identity you want, or the identity you're trying to escape? You say you want to level up, but you spent 5 hours scrolling and 5 minutes improving. You say you want clarity, but you keep choosing noise. You say you want peace, but you keep entering drama. You say you want discipline, but you keep choosing emotional comfort. The person you want to be is trapped behind the choices you keep avoiding, and the person you don't want to be is strengthened every time you choose weakness. Your choices are building someone. The question is, which identity are you building? That's the key. You have a choice. Here's the reality. 1 hour of focused work can change your entire direction, but 5 hours of scrolling can destroy your potential for the day. 1 hour of silence can reset your mind, but 1 hour of drama can drain your entire spirit. One disciplined decision can pull you forward, but one emotional reaction can pull you back. Small choices, repeated, relentlessly, consistently. That's where your future self lives. Your future self isn't built by intensity. Your future self is built by consistency. Small wins, small improvements, small steps, repeated every single day. You don't need a massive breakthrough. You need daily alignment. You need daily discipline. You need daily choices that match your future, not your past. It's not about feelings, it's about discipline. Your future self wakes up earlier, so wake up earlier. Your future self focuses longer, so focus longer. Your future self avoids emotional drama, so avoid it now. Your future self values silence, so choose silence today. Your future self protects their energy, so protect yours right now. The identity you want is embedded in these small decisions, not the big ones, not the dramatic ones, not the ones you only make when you're motivated.
Real identity is forged in the boring repetition of smart, disciplined choices. Choices that don't feel good in the moment. Choices that demand effort. Choices that demand discomfort. Choices that demand commitment. But that's how identity is built. That's how character is built. That's how discipline is built. You don't build the future version of you by waiting. You build them by acting. Acting like them. Behaving like them. Choosing like them. Identity follows action. Your brain adapts to what you repeatedly do. Your self-image adapts to how you repeatedly show up. Your confidence adapts to what you repeatedly complete. Every choice is a vote for the person you want to be, or a vote for the person you're trying to outgrow. The question is, how are you voting today? It's not about feelings, it's about discipline. You don't need their permission. You don't need the perfect moment. You don't need motivation. You need to choose, right now, in the next hour, in the next decision, in the next impulse, in the next temptation. Because the next choice you make is where your future self is born.
Let's be very clear. You are not building your identity in the future. You're building it today. You're building it with the choices you make when no one's watching, with the choices you make when you're tired, with the choices you make when you're stressed, with the choices you make when nobody else will know. That's the identity that becomes permanent. That's the identity that sticks. That's the identity that becomes who you are. It's not about feelings. It's about discipline. That's the key. You have a choice. Your future self is not waiting for you to be perfect. Your future self is waiting for you to be consistent. And consistency comes from choosing the right action even when the wrong action feels easier. The identity you want already exists within you. Not in your imagination, not in your dreams, not in your goals, in your daily choices. This chapter is your reminder that the future version of you is built right now through every disciplined action you take. And the next step is understanding what you must destroy, because the old version of you will not go quietly. You learned how the new identity is built. Now you must learn what the old identity feeds on and how to eliminate it completely. Chapter 4. Burn the old version of you.
Chapter 4. Burn the old version of you. You cannot evolve while protecting the parts of you that keep you weak. You cannot upgrade your identity while holding on to the habits that built your old one. You cannot rise while still feeding the version of you that was built from excuses, comfort, avoidance, and emotional impulses. If you want a new identity, you must burn the old one. Not negotiate with it, not reason with it, not talk to it, not slowly fade away from it. You must burn it. Let it die. Stop feeding the old you. Most people don't transform because they try to bring their old self with them into a new life. They try to drag the same habits into a new identity. They try to drag the same routine into a new direction. They try to drag the same environment into a new standard. They try to drag the same people into a new mindset. It never works. The old identity will always sabotage the new one. Always. Because the old identity is comfortable. The old identity is familiar. The old identity is easy. The old identity is safe. And comfort always fights for survival. Let it die. Stop feeding the old you. Transformation demands sacrifice. You cannot keep everything. You cannot keep everyone. You cannot keep every habit, every pattern, every environment, every distraction. Something must go. Something must be removed. Something must be burned. That's the key. You have a choice. Let's be brutally honest. You already know what needs to go. You already know what's holding you back. You already know which habits feed the old identity. You already know which routines keep you weak. You already know who drains you. You already know what distractions slow you down. You don't need more information. You need elimination. Let it die. Stop feeding the old you. If your phone traps you, delete the apps. Not later, not when it's convenient, now. Delete the apps that steal your time, your focus, your attention, your discipline, your identity. If someone constantly pulls you backwards, cut them off. Not gradually, not politely, not someday. Now. Distance is a form of self-respect. If your environment keeps you in your old patterns, change it. Clean your room. Throw out the clutter. Redesign your workspace. Upgrade your atmosphere. Because environment shapes behavior, and behavior shapes identity. The old identity survives because you still feed it. You feed it through your habits.
You feed it through your environment. You feed it through your relationships. You feed it through your excuses. You feed it through just one more time. You feed it through, I'll change later. Later does not exist. Later is the lie the old identity tells you to keep you the same. Let it die. Stop feeding the old you. You want to know why transformation feels painful? Because you're killing a version of yourself that you've lived with for years. A version that feels familiar. A version that feels safe. A version that has been with you through everything. A version that might be dysfunctional, but predictable. But predictability is not growth. Comfort is not progress. Familiarity is not your future. You must bury the identity that kept you small. You must bury the identity that held you back. You must bury the identity that settled for mediocrity. Let it die. Stop feeding the old you. Think about it. You cannot become disciplined while protecting your lazy habits. You cannot become focused while protecting your distractions. You cannot become emotionally controlled while protecting your impulses. You cannot become strong while protecting your weaknesses. The old identity must collapse for the new one to rise. This is the painful truth of self-transformation. You must be willing to sacrifice the version of you that is addicted to comfort. Change requires destruction. Destruction of habits, destruction of routines, destruction of distractions, destruction of emotional patterns, destruction of weak choices. You're not losing yourself. You're losing the version of you that was designed to survive, not thrive. You're losing the version of you that was built from fear, not clarity. You're losing the version of you that was built from reaction, not discipline. You're losing the version of you that you've outgrown.
Let it die. Stop feeding the old you. The future version of you, the stronger, disciplined, focused, calm version, can't walk into your life if the doorway is still blocked by the old self. You must push that version out. You must stop entertaining it. You must stop apologizing for outgrowing it. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission from your past. You don't need permission from old friends. You don't need permission from your emotions. You need discipline. It's not about the flaw. It's about the discipline. And discipline says, remove what weakens you. Remove what slows you. Remove what distracts you. Remove what drains you. Remove what keeps you tied to the identity you're trying to kill. Take a moment. Picture the old version of you standing in front of you. The one who breaks promises. The one who chooses comfort. The one who avoids responsibility. The one who reacts emotionally. The one who distracts themselves. The one who wastes time. The one who stays stuck. Now imagine that version fading, shrinking, weakening, dissolving, because you stop feeding it. That's what this chapter is about. Starvation. Starve the old identity. Starve its habits. Starve its impulses. Starve its comforts. Let it die. Stop feeding the old you. And when you do, something powerful happens. Space opens. Clarity appears. Energy returns. Discipline strengthens. And the new identity finally has room to grow. This is the demolition stage of transformation. It's messy. It's emotional. It's uncomfortable. But it's required. Because you cannot build a new identity on top of an old foundation. You must clear the ground. You must remove the debris. You must make space for the person you're becoming. You're finally ready. Ready to remove the things that hold you back. Ready to release the version that kept you small. Ready to burn the identity that no longer fits your future. Let it die. Stop feeding the old you. And now, with the old self weakening, it's time to rebuild your environment. Because your environment programs your identity more than you realize. You burn the old identity. Now let's shape the world that will support the new one. Chapter 5. Your environment is programming you.
Chapter 5. Your environment is programming you. Your environment is not neutral. Your environment is not passive. Your environment is not background noise. Your environment is programming you. Every day, every minute, every second. The room you sit in, the desk you work at, the friends you talk to, the apps you open, the noise you consume, the places you go, the energy you allow. All of it is shaping your identity, even when you don't notice it, especially when you don't notice it. Change your environment, change your identity. That's the key. You have a choice. People say they want discipline, but their environment destroys their discipline before they even begin. People say they want focus, but their space is full of noise and distraction. People say they want clarity, but their room is chaos. People say they want transformation, but their environment is designed for stagnation. You cannot build a new identity in a space built for the old one. You cannot grow in a room that keeps you small. You cannot stay focused in a place that pulls your attention in every direction. Your environment is either your ally or your enemy. There is no middle ground. Change your environment, change your identity. Look at your room. Really look. Is it clean? Is it organized? Is it intentional? Or is it cluttered, chaotic, and heavy with old energy? Clutter creates chaos. Chaos creates stress. Stress creates emotional instability, and emotional instability destroys discipline. A messy room is not just a messy room. It's a reflection of a messy mind. It's a reflection of old habits. It's a reflection of the identity you're trying to outgrow. If you want clarity, create clarity. Clear the desk, clear the floor, clear the drawer, clear the visual noise that keeps you mentally scattered. This is not decoration. This is identity construction. This is psychological engineering. This is the foundation for your reset. Change your environment, change your identity. That's the key. You have a choice. Let's talk about noise. Not physical noise, mental noise. The noise from your apps, the noise from social media, the noise from endless notifications, the noise from people who drain your energy. Every ping, every vibration, every red icon, every pop-up, every check this, every look at that, it breaks your focus. It fragments your identity. It rewires your brain for distraction. Your phone is not a tool, it's an environment. And it's the environment that shapes your habits the fastest. You scroll because the environment is engineered for scrolling. You overconsume because the environment is engineered for addiction. You lose time because the environment is engineered to steal time. If you want to reset your identity, you must reset your digital environment. Delete the apps that drain your mind. Mute the notifications that steal your attention. Remove the icons that pull you backward. This is not extreme. This is necessary. You don't need their permission. You don't need approval. You need discipline. It's not about flaw. It's about discipline. Change your environment, change your identity. Now let's talk about people, because people are the strongest part of your environment. People shape your language. People shape your habits. People shape your thoughts. People shape your self-image. The people you allow into your life are mirrors reflecting your identity back at you. If you're surrounded by complainers, you become a complainer. If you're surrounded by the undisciplined, you lose your discipline. If you're surrounded by emotional people, you become reactive. If you're surrounded by noise, you lose your stillness. Identity is contagious. Energy is contagious. Weakness is contagious.
And so is discipline. So is focus. So is ambition. So is clarity. You have to choose your environment, or your environment will choose your identity for you. That's the key. You have a choice. If you're trying to level up, but your environment is pulling you down, guess who wins? The environment. Every time.
Because willpower is temporary, but environment is constant. This is why people fail. Not because they're weak, not because they lack potential, not because they don't want it. They fail because they try to build a new life in an old environment. A disciplined identity cannot grow in an undisciplined environment. A focused identity cannot grow in a distracting environment. An elevated identity cannot grow in a low-energy environment. You must elevate the environment first. Then the identity follows. Change your environment, change your identity. Let's get practical. Here are the first changes you must make. Clean your space. Not tomorrow, today. A clean environment resets your mind. Organize your desk. A clear desk creates a clear focus pattern. Remove visual clutter. Your brain processes everything you see, even subconsciously. Limit digital noise. Delete apps. Mute notifications. Create silence. Create a dedicated space for deep work. Not your bed, not the couch, a place for focus, a place for discipline. Review your social circle. Who feeds your identity? Who kills it? Who raises your standard? Who lowers it? You have a choice. If someone weakens your mind, restrict access. If someone feeds your chaos, distance yourself. If someone drains you, cut them out. If someone inspires you, get closer. Your environment is the blueprint for the identity you are building. Every part of it either reinforces the old you or strengthens the new you. Change your environment, change your identity. That's the key. Stop believing you can transform while living in the same noise, the same mess, the same distractions, the same people, the same energy. You can't. Nobody can. This is why so many people relapse into their old habits because their environment never changed. They tried to grow in the same soil that killed their discipline. They tried to evolve in the same space that kept them small. They tried to improve in the same environment that shaped their old identity. But you're not them. You're building something different. You're building something stronger. You're building something intentional. You're building a new identity, and that identity needs a new environment. Change the space, change the inputs, change the energy, change the noise, change the people, change the triggers. Change your environment, change your identity. Say it again. Change your environment, change your identity. This is the foundation of your transformation. This is where the reset becomes real. This is where the new identity starts to take shape. And now that you've rebuilt your environment, it's time to build the discipline that keeps your new identity alive, because identity without discipline cannot survive. You reshaped your environment, now let's strengthen the discipline that will protect it. Chapter 6, Discipline is the DNA of a new identity.
Chapter 6. Discipline is the DNA of a new identity. Discipline is not a skill. Discipline is not a mood. Discipline is not something you wake up with one day. Discipline is identity. Discipline is the DNA of who you are becoming. And every identity upgrade is really a discipline upgrade. You want a stronger identity? Build stronger discipline. You want a calmer mind? Build disciplined emotions. You want a focused life? Build disciplined daily structure. You want transformation? Build disciplined decisions. That's the key. You have a choice. People talk about discipline like it's optional, like it's a personality trait. Like some people are born disciplined while others are not. That's a lie. You trained your current discipline level. You practiced it. You reinforced it. You repeated it. And the good news is this: you can retrain it. You can rebuild it. You can reshape it. Every identity shift begins with discipline. Not motivation, not emotion, not inspiration. Discipline. The person you want to become lives in the choices you keep avoiding. The hard choices, the uncomfortable choices, the disciplined choices. Waking up on command, not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient, but when you tell yourself it's time. That is discipline. That is identity. That is power. You don't need permission. You need discipline. Emotional control is discipline. You want to stop reacting? You want to stop exploding? You want to stop letting other people control your feelings? Then build the discipline of pausing, breathing, observing, responding intentionally. It's not about the flaw. It's about the discipline. Consistency is discipline. Your routines shape your identity more than your dreams ever will. Everyone dreams. Few commit. Everyone wants change. Few follow through. Your routines reveal your true identity. Not your words, not your wishes, not your intentions. Consistency builds character. Consistency builds confidence. Consistency builds identity. Every identity upgrade is really a discipline upgrade. Let me be brutally honest with you. The reason your old identity keeps winning is because your discipline is inconsistent. You're disciplined when it's easy. You're disciplined when you're motivated. You're disciplined when conditions are perfect. But discipline doesn't count when it's convenient. Discipline counts when you don't want to do it. Discipline counts when you're tired. Discipline counts when everything in you wants to stop. That's where identity is forged. You don't need permission. You need discipline. Think about your daily life. Think about what steals your discipline. Your phone, your impulses, your comfort, your emotions, your excuses. Each one is a thief. Each one is stealing your potential. Each one is weakening the identity you're trying to build. You need to reclaim control. You need to reclaim command over yourself. You need to reclaim your discipline. Start small, but be consistent. Wake up at the same time every day. Train your mind to obey instructions. This is not about perfection. It's about self-respect.
Do the task you don't want to do immediately. No delay. No waiting for the right moment. No emotional negotiation. You don't need permission. You need discipline. Set routines that force you to grow, not routines that protect your comfort. Comfort is the enemy of discipline. Comfort is the grave of your potential. Discipline thrives in structure. Discipline thrives in boundaries. Discipline thrives in order. Discipline thrives in clarity. Set rules for yourself. Honor them. Protect them. Live by them. This is where identity becomes unshakable, because discipline makes you predictable to yourself. When you know you will follow through, your identity shifts permanently. That's the key. You have a choice. Look at the choices the old identity made. Sleeping in, breaking promises, reacting emotionally, skipping routines, choosing comfort. Those choices built weakness. Those choices built chaos. Those choices built inconsistency. Now look at the choices the new identity must make. Wake up on command. Control your reactions. Follow your routines. Do the work. Say no to distractions. Say yes to effort. Those choices build discipline. Those choices build confidence. Those choices build identity. Every identity upgrade is really a discipline upgrade. If you want to become unstoppable, discipline is the fuel. If you want to become unshakable, discipline is the foundation. If you want to become exceptional, discipline is the requirement. Not talent, not intelligence, not luck. Discipline. Because disciplined people win. Disciplined people rise. Disciplined people transform. And you can be one of them. Not someday, not eventually, not when life gets easier. Right now. But you must choose it again and again, every day, every moment. You don't need permission. You need discipline. And here's the truth you must accept. Discipline will feel uncomfortable at first. It will feel unnatural. It will feel forced. Because your old identity has trained you for inconsistency. But discomfort is the doorway. Discomfort is the sign of growth. Discomfort is the birthplace of the new identity. Walk through it. Train through it. Grow through it. That's how discipline becomes natural. That's how discipline becomes automatic. That's how discipline becomes your identity. And once discipline becomes your identity, everything changes. Your habits change. Your environment changes. Your standards change. Your life changes. Discipline writes the blueprint of your future self. This chapter is your reminder. If you want to become the person you keep imagining, you must act like them every day, especially when you don't feel like it. Every identity upgrade is really a discipline upgrade. And now that you've rebuilt your discipline, it's time to deal with the internal enemy. The emotional loops that keep you pulling you back into your old patterns. You strengthened the discipline. Now, let's break the emotional cycles that keep it weak. Chapter 7. Break emotional loops that keep you weak.
Chapter 7. Break emotional loops that keep you weak. You are not weak because life is hard. You are not weak because you lack potential. You are not weak because you are broken. You are weak because you keep replaying the same emotional loops that destroy your discipline. Overthinking, regret, fear, anxiety, rumination, replaying the past, predicting disaster, hyperreacting to everything. These loops are not random. They are patterns, and patterns form identity. And the identity you're trying to escape is built from these loops. Break the loop. You have a choice. The old version of you lives inside these emotional cycles. The old version of you feeds on these cycles. The old version of you survives because you keep giving these loops your time, your attention, and your energy. You can't build a new identity while letting old emotional loops run your mind. You can't build discipline while letting fear control your reactions. You can't build clarity while drowning in overthinking. You can't build strength while reliving regret. Break the loop. You have a choice. Let's start with the most common loop, overthinking. Overthinking is not a personality trait. It's a habit of avoiding action by drowning yourself in mental noise. A habit of predicting outcomes instead of creating them.
a habit of hiding behind analysis instead of taking responsibility. Overthinking keeps you stuck because it feels productive. It feels safe. It feels intelligent. But it's not. It's paralysis disguised as logic. You break overthinking with action. You break it by moving before your mind has a chance to trap you. You break it by doing the thing your brain is trying to avoid. Stop thinking. Start acting. Break the loop. You have a choice. Now let's talk about regret. Regret is the loop that chains you to your past. You replay old mistakes. You rewrite old conversations. You punish yourself for decisions you can't change. And every time you replay regret, you reinforce the identity that made those mistakes. Regret doesn't fix the past. Regret keeps you living in it. You break regret with responsibility. You break it by saying, I did it. It happened, and I'm done replaying it. You break it by choosing who you want to be today, not who you were back then. Break the loop. You have a choice. Let's move to fear. Fear is the loop that tries to control your future before you even take your first step. Fear lies. Fear exaggerates. Fear predicts outcomes that never happen. Fear creates problems that don't exist. Fear is not a warning. Fear is a trap. Fear keeps you from living the life you want because it convinces you that the life you want is dangerous. You break fear with exposure. You do the thing fear tells you not to do. You walk toward the discomfort. You move into the unknown. You act in spite of fear. That's how fear loses its power. Break the loop. You have a choice. And now the quiet killer, anxiety. Anxiety's the loop that blends your past and future into one endless storm. You take memories from your past. You mix them with fears about the future, and you create a mental environment full of imagined threats. Anxiety is your mind trying to prepare for danger. The problem is there is no danger, only your imagination. You break anxiety with presence. You break it by grounding yourself in the moment. You break it by controlling your breath, your body, your focus. You break it by returning to reality instead of drowning in imagined chaos. Break the loop. You have a choice. And now let's address the most destructive loop of all, emotional reactions. Emotional reactions create instant identity damage. One moment of anger turns into a bad decision. One moment of insecurity turns into self-sabotage. One moment of fear turns into self-doubt. One moment of impulsiveness ruins a week of discipline. Emotional reactions are not just how you are. They are trained habits, and trained habits can be untrained. You break emotional reactions with emotional detachment. You break them by creating space between stimulus and response. You break them by observing your emotions instead of obeying them. You break them by refusing to let your feelings make decisions for you. Detachment is not coldness. Detachment is control. Detachment is power. Detachment is identity. Break the loop. You have a choice. Here's the truth most people avoid. Your emotional loops are comfortable. They're familiar. They're predictable. They allow you to stay the same. They allow you to avoid growth. Breaking them feels uncomfortable. Breaking them feels unnatural. Breaking them feels like losing a part of yourself. And you are. You're losing the part of yourself that kept you weak. Every time you break a loop, you weaken the old identity. Every time you break a loop, you strengthen the new identity. Every time you break a loop, you reclaim control over your life.
Let's get practical. Here are the actions that break emotional loops. 1. Catch the loop early. Recognize the pattern. Name it. Interrupt it. 2. Replace mental noise with physical action. Stand up. Move. Walk. Do the task. Break the mental cycle with a physical shift. 3. Breathe with intention. Slow inhale,
Slow exhale. Reset your nervous system. 4. Detach from your emotions. Observe without reacting. Feel without obeying. 5. Choose the identity you want, not the identity your emotions want. Identity follows action, not feelings. It's not about feelings. It's about discipline. Break the loop. You have a choice. Understand this. You cannot transform while holding onto emotional patterns that belong to the old you. You cannot rise while replaying the same mental storms. You cannot discipline your identity while letting emotions run the show. This is your breaking point. This is your shift. This is where your mind stops controlling you and you start controlling your mind. Break the loop. You have a choice. And now that you're learning to escape emotional traps, it's time to face the next level of identity reconstruction. The level where you train yourself to do things you avoid, things that are difficult, things that build strength instead of weakness. You broke the loop. Now it's time to build the version of you who does hard things. Chapter 8. Become the kind of person who does hard things.
Chapter 8. Become the kind of person who does hard things. The strongest version of you is built in the places you avoid, in the discomfort, in the resistance, in the challenges you keep postponing. Hard things are not punishment. Hard things are transformation. Hard things reshape identity faster than anything else. Comfort is the enemy. Discomfort is the forge. If you keep choosing comfort, you will continue becoming the version of yourself you're trying to escape. The weak version, the reactive version, the undisciplined version, the inconsistent version. But when you choose discomfort, you awaken a new identity, a stronger identity, a disciplined identity, a resilient identity. That's the key. You have a choice. The difference between the person you are and the person you want to become is simple. They do hard things. They don't negotiate with difficulty. They don't hesitate when resistance shows up. They don't flinch when the work gets uncomfortable. They move. Because they understand one truth: hard things build power. Look at your life. Everything you're proud of came from doing something difficult. Everything that made you grow required discomfort. Everything that strengthened your identity required resistance. But somewhere along the way, you trained yourself to avoid discomfort, to shrink from challenge, to choose the easier path, to retreat into comfort whenever things feel heavy. Comfort feels safe, but it destroys your potential. Comfort feels good, but it erases your progress. Comfort feels peaceful, but it weakens your identity. Comfort is the enemy. Discomfort is the forge. If you want to become the kind of person who does hard things, you must train for it. You must break the pattern of avoidance. You must shift your relationship with discomfort, not as something to fear, but as something to pursue, something to seek, something to embrace, something that signals growth. Let's start with the simple truth. Your brain is not wired for hard things. Your brain is wired for survival, which means your brain is wired for comfort, for safety, for familiarity. Hard things threaten comfort, so your brain creates excuses. I'll do it later. I'm too tired. I don't feel ready. I'll wait for the right time. These excuses are not weaknesses. They are survival instincts. But you are not trying to survive. You are trying to transform. And transformation requires overcoming instinct. You don't need permission. You need discipline. Let's talk about practical examples, the kind of hard things that change identity quickly. Cold showers, not because they're magical, not because they fix your life,
but because they teach your mind one thing: discomfort is not danger. Deep focus sessions, not because they're heroic, but because they train your brain to resist distraction, to hold attention, to build mental endurance. Silence days, not because you need to isolate yourself, but because silence removes noise, and without noise, you can finally hear your identity clearly. Commitment challenges, not for motivation, but for identity. Because when you commit to something and follow through, you tell your brain, I can trust myself. That is how new identity forms, through the repetition of difficult actions, through the discipline of doing what you don't want to do, through the rejection of comfort in favor of growth. Comfort is the enemy. Discomfort is the forge. Every time you choose a hard thing, you strengthen your identity. Every time you avoid it, you weaken it. There is no neutral action. You're either training strength or training weakness. You're either building the new identity or reinforcing the old one. The moment you feel resistance, that is the moment transformation begins, because resistance is the doorway. Resistance is the threshold. Resistance is the barrier between who you are and who you're becoming. Most people run from that barrier. You will walk through it. You have a choice.
Let me tell you something important. Hard things don't get easier. You get stronger. Your tolerance increases. Your capacity increases. Your self-respect increases. Your discipline increases. Identity upgrades require upgraded difficulty. If the challenges don't grow, you don't grow. If the discomfort stays small, your identity stays small. Stop waiting for the easy path. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting for permission. You don't need permission. You need discipline. Let's get practical. Here are the exact behaviors that build the identity of someone who does hard things. Wake up when you said you would, not when you feel like it. Your feelings are irrelevant. Start tasks immediately, not after a warm-up, not after procrastination, not after scrolling. Now. Push past the first wave of resistance. Every hard thing has a wall at the start. Break through it. Choose the uncomfortable option on purpose. Walk instead of drive. Call instead of text. Say no instead of escaping. Finish what you start. Completion is identity. Broken commitments reinforce weakness. Practice emotional neutrality. Doing hard things without complaining, without dramatizing, without victimhood. Do what your old identity avoided. If it scared you before, do it now. If it overwhelmed you before, face it now. If it exhausted you before, practice it now. This is how you rewire your identity. Action by action, challenge by challenge, day by day. Comfort is the enemy. Discomfort is the forge. And now that you understand the power of discomfort, it's time to master the next step in your identity transformation. Acting as your future self before you feel like them. You built strength through discomfort. Now let's build identity through action. Chapter 9. Act as if until it becomes true.
Chapter 9. Act as if until it becomes true. You don't become your future self by waiting. You don't become your future self by hoping. You don't become your future self by dreaming. You become your future self by acting like them long before you feel like them. Identity follows action. Act first. The world has lied to you. It told you that you should feel ready, that you should feel confident, that you should feel motivated, that you should feel like the future version of yourself before you act. But that's not how identity works. You don't wait for the identity. You create the identity through repetition, through behavior, through disciplined action. Identity follows action. Act first.
Your brain rewires itself based on what you consistently do, not what you want, not what you think, not what you visualize, what you do. Every action sends a message to your mind. This is who I am now. This is the standard. This is the identity I'm choosing. And the brain listens. The brain adapts. The brain rewrites your self-image piece by piece. You have a choice. That's the key. If you want to think like your future self, start acting like them. If you want to move like your future self, start behaving like them. If you want to live like your future self, start making decisions like them. Identity follows action. Act first. Let's make this real. Imagine the version of you you're trying to become. The disciplined version, the calm version, the focused version, the confident version, the version that shows up fully. How do they walk? How do they speak? How do they make decisions? How do they spend their time? How do they respond to stress? Answer these questions, and you have your blueprint. Now act as if you are already that person. Act as if that identity is already yours. Act as if that transformation has already happened. Your posture is the first step. The way you carry yourself shapes the way you think. Stand tall. Move with intention. Walk with presence. Your posture tells your brain, we are someone now. This is not pretending. This is programming. Identity follows action. Act first. Your speech is next. Stop talking like the old identity. Stop saying you're tired. Stop saying you're overwhelmed. Stop saying you're trying. Stop saying maybe. Speak with clarity. Speak with control. Speak with conviction. Speak like the version of you who has standards. Speak like the version of you who follows through. Because your words don't just communicate to others, they program your self-image. Your future self speaks differently, so speak differently now. Identity follows action. Act first. Next comes your decisions. This is where transformation becomes real. Your old self makes decisions based on comfort. Your new self makes decisions based on alignment. Your old self makes decisions based on fear. Your new self makes decisions based on standards. Act as if the future identity is making the decisions for you, not your emotions, not your impulses, not your doubt, your identity. Ask yourself, what would the future me choose right now? Then choose that, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's difficult, even if it's inconvenient. Discipline is choosing your future over your feelings. Identity follows action. Act first.
Now let's talk about energy. Not spiritual energy, behavioral energy. The energy you bring into a room. The energy you bring into a conversation. The energy you bring into your work. Your old identity leaks energy. Your new identity protects it. Your old identity reacts emotionally. Your new identity stays steady. Your old identity chases validation. Your new identity moves with quiet confidence. Shift your energy deliberately. Move slower. Speak slower. Breathe slower. Slow equals controlled. Controlled equals disciplined. Disciplined equals elevated identity. Identity follows action. Act first. Here's the truth. Acting as if is not pretending. It's rehearsing. And rehearsal becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. Identity becomes your new reality. This is how actors transform into their roles. This is how athletes develop world-class mindsets.
This is how CEOs build leadership presence. This is how anyone shifts their identity. The brain cannot tell the difference between acting as a new identity and becoming that identity, as long as you repeat the behavior consistently. You have a choice. That's the key. But most people never use this power. They say, I'll act confident when I feel confident. I'll act disciplined when I feel disciplined. I'll act focused when I feel focused. But feelings follow action, not the other way around. Identity follows action. Act first. Let's break this down into practical, repeatable behaviors that reshape identity. 1. Posture rehearsal. Stand like your future self. Move like your future self. Carry yourself like someone who respects who they're becoming. 2. Speech rehearsal. Remove weak language. Speak with clarity. Speak like someone who knows where they're going. 3. Decision rehearsal. Choose the harder path. Choose the disciplined path. Choose the aligned path. 4. Energy rehearsal. Stay calm. Stay centered. Stay collected. Your emotional tone becomes your identity. 5. Routine rehearsal. Build the habits your future self relies on, even if they feel unfamiliar now. You're not pretending. You're practicing. You're not faking it. You're forming it. You're not acting like someone else. You're acting like who you're becoming. And every day you do this, your old identity loses power. Your new identity strengthens. Your self-image shifts. Your confidence grows. Your discipline solidifies. This is how transformation happens. Not in one moment, not in one breakthrough, not in one decision, but in thousands of repeated actions that reinforce the identity you want. Identity follows action. Act first. And if you stay consistent, if you keep acting as your future self, the shift becomes permanent. The new identity becomes automatic. Your actions become natural. And the person you once had to act like becomes the person you truly are. This is the real power of identity transformation. You create the future version of you through the actions you take today. And now that you're acting as your future self, it's time to master the final step. Behaving like your future self, even when your emotions try to pull you back into the past. Because emotion is the last barrier. Emotion is the final test. Emotion is the ultimate identity challenge. You acted like your future self. Now you must protect that identity from emotional sabotage. Chapter 10. Make decisions from your future self, not your feelings.
Chapter 10. Protect the identity you built. You've built a new identity. You've broken the loops. You've embraced discomfort. You've acted like your future self. But now comes the most important part. Protecting everything you built. Identity is not permanent, not yet. It is fragile in the beginning. It is vulnerable. It is easily influenced. And if you don't guard it ruthlessly, the old identity will come back. It always tries. It always returns. It always fights for survival. Protect the identity you built. Hold the line. Protect your standards. Because transformation isn't just about building the new version of you. It's about defending it daily, consistently, intentionally, aggressively. The old self is waiting for a moment of weakness, waiting for a moment of fatigue, waiting for a moment of emotional instability, waiting for the smallest opening so it can pull you back into familiar patterns. And if you don't guard your identity, it will succeed, not because you're weak, but because the old identity has been around longer. It has more reps. It has stronger habits. It has deeper patterns. This chapter is your shield, your armor, your protection. Because identity maintenance is the real work, and most people fail here. Hold the line. Protect your standards. You have a choice.
Let's get one thing clear. The new identity demands boundaries. Strong boundaries. Firm boundaries. Non-negotiable boundaries. Boundaries with people. Boundaries with emotions. Boundaries with habits. Boundaries with distractions. Boundaries with your old self. If you don't set boundaries, your identity will be shaped by external forces, by noise, by people, by impulses, by pressure, by chaos. Protect the identity you built. Hold the line. Protect your standards. Let's talk about people first. Some people support your new identity. Others feed your old one. Some elevate your standards. Others drag them down. Some strengthen your discipline. Others weaken it. You know exactly who belongs in each group. You've always known. The new identity requires you to choose the right people, even if it means letting go of the wrong ones, even if it means distancing yourself, even if it means losing comfort, losing familiarity, losing old connections. Not everyone can come with you. Not everyone should. Not everyone is meant to. Hold the line. Protect your standards. Now let's talk about routines. Your routines built this new identity. Your routines rewired your brain. Your routines reshaped your discipline. But routines are fragile. Skip one day and it's nothing. Skip 3 days and it becomes a pattern. Skip a week and the old identity starts knocking on the door. You rebuild identity through repetition. You protect identity through consistency. Protect your routines at all costs. Your wake-up time, your deep work blocks, your exercise, your silence, your boundaries. These are not habits. These are anchors. They keep you grounded. They keep you aligned. They keep you disciplined. Hold the line. Protect your standards. Now let's talk about emotions, because emotions are the most dangerous threat to your new identity. Your old identity lived inside emotional chaos. It thrived on impulsive reactions. It fed on anger, fear, doubt, overthinking, anxiety. Your new identity is built on discipline, on calmness, on intention, on clarity.
But emotions don't disappear. They reappear stronger when you're growing because they want you back. They want you reactive. They want you impulsive. They want you emotional. This is where you must practice emotional neutrality. Observe without reacting. Pause before responding. Detach from the impulse. Choose your identity over your feelings. It's not about the flaw. It's about the discipline. Hold the line. Protect your standards. Next, let's talk about self-talk. Your internal voice is the architect of your identity. It can build you or break you. It can empower you or sabotage you. It can keep you aligned or drag you backwards. Your old self-talk was damaging. It said, "You're not enough. You always fail. You're too inconsistent. You can't change." That voice must be replaced. Not ignored, replaced. With disciplined self-talk. I follow through. I do hard things. I control my emotions. I protect my standards. I act like my future self. I hold the line. Repeat it. Live it. Become it. Identity follows action, but it is reinforced by language. Protect the identity you built. Hold the line. Protect your standards. And now we address the final threat, relapse into old habits. Relapse doesn't happen all at once. It starts small. One skipped routine, one emotional reaction, one moment of laziness, one, "I'll do it tomorrow." These micro breakdowns invite the old identity back, and if you don't shut them down immediately, they grow. And once they grow, they reclaim control. You must be ruthless here. If you slip, correct immediately. Not next week, not tomorrow, not later. Immediately. Instant alignment, instant correction, instant reset. That's how you protect your identity, not by being perfect, but by returning to your standards instantly when you slip. You don't need permission. You need discipline. Hold the line. Protect your standards. Let me give you a hard truth. The new identity only wins if you defend it daily. Not occasionally, not when life feels easy, not when you're comfortable. Daily. Success doesn't require perfection. Transformation doesn't require perfection. Identity change doesn't require perfection. It requires protection. Active, daily protection. Because you're not just building a new identity, you're becoming someone you have never been. And becoming someone new requires guarding who you used to be from sneaking back in. Hold the line. Protect your standards. You have a choice. And now that you've learned how to guard the identity you've built, you're ready for the final step. The step where all the chapters come together. The step where you lock in your transformation. The step where the old life becomes impossible to return to. You protected the identity. Now let's seal the transformation forever. Closing chapter. The identity reset. This is the moment you stop being who you were and finally become who you were meant to be. Your new identity starts now. Don't look back.